welcome Billy Ray. Welcome, Billy. You know, I know from past Clint Eastwood movies, of which there are so many, whenever you talk to a writer that's done a Clint Eastwood movie, they just always say, oh my God, I love that, because he respects the writer and he respects the script. This is your first collaboration with Clint, right?
Yeah, when I first wrote this for Fox 4 years ago, there were some rumblings that Clint was going to do the movie, and for some reason the deal didn't work out, so he went off and made Sully. And the project kind of lay fallow for all those years, and then all of a sudden he raised his hand again. So I was literally walking into a lunch, and I got this call saying, would you like to meet Clint? And I said, sure, when? And they said 3:30, and I said, okay. So I went in and I got his notes, and this was in May of this year. And I was talking to him about his notes, and I said, do you have a release date for this? He said, no. I said, but 2020? He said, no, I think Christmas. and I said, well, how's that possible? It's May, and we're sitting here. He said, well, we should be done by July. I'd really have to be lollygagging not to get it done by December. and I said, Clint, I'm not going to take another second of your time. I'm going to go home and write those notes. And I turned it in the next day, and he went off, and that was that.
And that was that, yeah. He is amazing. At 89 years old. Yeah, you can applaud that. And turning out these great movies. This is another great Eastwood movie, I have to say.
Look, the first time you see a movie that you write, I'm sure everyone in this audience can appreciate this experience. It's always a gut punch. You're always, you just see the flaws in your work, and there comes a point in your career where all you're hoping for is just the absence of humiliation. And so they screened this movie for me in Toronto 3 weeks ago, and I was sitting there in a room with two friends, and I was 2 minutes in, and I thought, okay, I don't hate it yet. And I was 5 minutes in, and I thought, I don't hate it yet. And 10 minutes in, no, I still don't hate it. And 30, 40, and all of a sudden you get to the end of the movie, and you think, I'm really proud of this movie. I love this movie. And when absence of humiliation is the bar, you can do better. And you know, my advice to you is write for Clint Eastwood.
So 4 years ago, this was at Fox, and it had a circuitous route here to get to the screen. But how did you initially get involved, and what was the appeal to you of doing this story?
I was always fascinated by the Richard Jewell movie and the story. And in fact, when ESPN was doing those 30 for 30s, I kind of randomly thought I'd love to do a 30 for 30 about the Ballad of Richard Jewell. It turns out someone had already done it. And then one day, to my great good fortune, I got a call from Jennifer Davison and Kevin Misher, who had acquired the rights, and said, do you want to do Richard Jewell? And I felt about it the same way I felt about it the first time I heard the Captain Phillips story. I love doing true stories. I find real human behavior to be a lot more interesting than anything I can create. But when you find a true story where you don't have to invent anything, a true story that lays out like an action movie, as Captain Phillips did, or that lays out like a drama, as this one did, where the behavior is so telling and so true, you know, I was all over it. What I try to do whenever I write anything is, the first thing you figure out is what is broken about your lead character that only this movie can fix. And there was something very broken about Richard Jewell, that he had this obsession with being law enforcement, and he had this idolization of what law enforcement represented. And then to see law enforcement turn on that guy.
Right.
You know, the movie from the beginning was always about speaking truth to power. That was always the true north of the movie. You know, I knew at the very beginning of writing that there was going to be a moment where he was going to face down the FBI and tell them what he really thought of them. And then everything works backwards and forwards from there.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the timing on this, however long it took to get to the screen. Right now seems the right time. And, you know, when you look at how the FBI has been under assault by certain unnamed people, and also the media, and both of them are very central to what happened to Richard Jewell in a bad way.
Well, you have to stop thinking about the FBI and the media as institutions. The FBI and the media are a group of people that are custodians of an institution. And those people can have good judgment or bad judgment. They can be mean-spirited or they can be saints. But it's not the building that makes the decisions, it's the people inside the building. The FBI is a very different place with Bill Barr as the Attorney General than it would be if someone else were the Attorney General. In this particular case, Louis Freeh was director of the FBI. They needed to find a suspect fast. The Atlanta Olympic Organizing Committee had made the decision to reopen the park. That puts a lot of heat on the FBI to protect the citizenry, or at least to appear like they're protecting the citizenry. And then, of course, the media fed in because I think Fox News was 3 months from going on the air when this happened. CNN had just been on the air for less than a year. All the print contingencies in the media they saw the end was coming. They saw what CNN was going to do to the daily newspaper trade, which turned out to be true. And it compromised their judgment. But again, that's not an institution making a mistake. Those are people. Yeah. And they made terrible mistakes. And never accounted for it, never atoned for it in the case of Richard Jewell.
Yeah. The FBI agent, played by John Hamm, is a character in this case who is an amalgamation of different agents. So why did you decide, what is it really a real guy that was sort of the central person here? Yes. And why did you decide to go fictionalize him?
I made the suggestion that we fictionalize, and I think it was either Warner Legal or Clint who made that decision. I wasn't there when they actually made it.
Yeah. So how did that affect you in writing it?
It didn't affect me at all because the behavior was the same. It was just changing the name.
You based this on two sources, I notice here, not just Marie Brenner's Vanity Fair article, but also the book Suspect. So how did that work in terms of the adaptation here?
Suspect came into the game rather late. I had already written it for Fox, and it had been in the middle of that kind of fallow period, about a year and a half, when those same two producers, Kevin Misher and Jennifer Davison, got a hold of this book, Suspect, and said you should take a look at this because it really drilled down on the relationship between the reporter and the lead FBI agent. And it seemed like the kind of material that was worth incorporating into the script.
So that was not in the art, that was in the book, basically. The book. Yeah, and it's in the movie here too, obviously.
Obviously, I went to Atlanta myself and I spoke to the people that were involved in the case. I spent a lot of time with Boston Bryant and a lot of time with Bobby Jewell. And nothing in my own, I hate to use this word, but nothing in my own reporting contradicted what's in the movie.
Yeah. Tell me about your research and going there and talking to Bobby. I met her briefly at the premiere. She's a firecracker, let me tell you. She's an amazing person. And I've noticed actually the new marketing for the movie, the new ads that are on, use her in those ads. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about it, at least for me. Writing is hard, directing is hard, acting is harder. And by that I mean, I could sit down with Paul Walter Hauser and I could teach him what I know about writing and directing. It would take about 2 days, but I could do it. Is there anything that Paul Walter Hauser could teach me that would make me capable of doing that scene with him and the donut at the end? You either have that or you don't. He does, I don't. And Kathy Bates has it. And Sam Rockwell has it, and John Hamm has it, and they all do. Olivia Wilde, all of them do. And it seems to me that the thing you're betting on when you're marketing this movie is the strength of the performances, because just from top to bottom, they're so good. I'd be betting on that too.
Yeah. And, it's interesting the choices that you have to make when you're doing this whole story here. And I thought it was the speech that you mentioned, Kathy Bates, that she does where she's pleading basically to President Clinton at the time to do something. In the movie, it doesn't really say if he did. I can't remember, did he do anything, or that was just her, and that was verbatim from her speech?
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that one. Sometimes the best decision you can make when you're adapting a true story is to let the people who live it actually write the dialogue. And I found that to be true in that thing that I'm doing now where I'm adapting Comey's book. I don't need to write dialogue for Donald Trump. He writes it just fine. And all I need to do is just be a window and not an eye. Just turn the camera on that behavior. And human behavior is so idiosyncratic and interesting and compelling. For me, it's a much more comfortable here for me than writing fiction. And all the characters in this movie, they certainly fall into line for me. they have that kind of behavior. They're just, it's compelling because it's real.
The Sam Rockwell character, the lawyer here, he's first of all, Sam Rockwell has been so great in everything lately, and he's just fantastic in this movie. He is living. He was out here for the premiere, the real guy. Is he as lively? Is he exactly kind of like that he's portrayed in the movie?
Well, Sam brings a little special something to every character. I don't think there's anybody quite like Sam, but I thought it was a very, very good interpretation of who Watson Bryant actually is. I mean, that bumper sticker you see over his shoulder in his office, I fear government more than I fear terrorism. Yeah. That's real. That was in his office. And by the way, that's the real office building, the Schillis building, and that's the real apartment complex where Richard and Bobby lived. The first night that I met Watson Bryant, I flew out to Atlanta again with that producer, Kevin Misher, and we got in Watson's car, and he made a U-turn to take us to the restaurant, and there was a cop there. And the cop pulled him over. And Watson could have just held his fire and been okay, but instead Watson felt the need to open both barrels on this cop and tell him why it was such a chicken shit move to pull him over, and he talked himself into a ticket. And that's Watson. That's who he is, and I thought Sam got that on the first one.
How important, obviously probably very important, in giving the details of what went on and how, particularly in dealing with the FBI and everything that he did clearly in this movie, how close was that, and how much did he help you directly in this?
Word for word. I mean, I'm in contact with Comey every day asking him details about the scenes that we're about to shoot. I was in contact with Watson Bryant constantly as I was writing the script. You just got to make sure you get all that stuff right.
Yeah. You've done so many. I read off a lot of your credits, and we've talked.
I left out a few of them. We're doing fine.
Okay. I did leave out some.
I know.
But so much is based on real. You're really, you touched on it earlier, but you really are fascinated by real life here and bringing that to the screen. And it can be a slippery slope, because you're going to have somebody going after you no matter what you do on a true story, whether how they're portrayed or all of that. So, and you directed a lot of these movies as well.
Again, the idea of this movie is it's about speaking truth to power. That has always been what guided this particular script. We told the truth about this guy speaking the truth to power. And I will stand behind every word of this script.
Yeah. Which is great. Now, you're doing another FBI-related thing right now. I mentioned Higher Loyalty, the James Comey, which you're directing, but you're doing it as a miniseries, yes. Right? Why was the choice to go in that direction rather than as a feature film like this one?
I think there was a moment where I lost my confidence a little bit in the movie going public, and there was a part of me that was thinking, I'm going to go kill myself for 1.5 years to tell the Comey story, and it could be released as a feature, and I could get my ass kicked by Avengers 4, and that just didn't sound like fun. So instead, we sold it to Showtime and CBS All Access, and now I get 4 hours to tell the story instead of 2. And there's plenty of story to go around, and based on what is happening in DC right now, there may be 2 more hours out there. It seems like the right place for that particular piece of material, but I obviously couldn't be more thrilled by what this turned into.
Yeah, there was never any thought to go, before Clint got involved or anything. I know he doesn't do television, or he did television, Rawhide, but he hasn't done it since then. It's the movies, and it's movies like this that, you touched on this, are more and more rare coming from major studios. It takes somebody like a Clint Eastwood to say, I want to make this movie, and then even he has problems sometimes, getting them financed and getting them.
Yeah, but it's kind of a remarkable thing. He decided the release date and then told the studio what it was. The studio doesn't see dailies. He's just his own little business over there, and he has earned that right. Yeah. I've been very, very critical of this very organization, the DGA, in the past because I'm not a big fan of the film by credit. I think in general it's inaccurate and it's unnecessary, and when it's someone like Clint or Spielberg or Scorsese or Catherine Bigelow, like someone like that, where the name actually can become part of the marketing campaign and the name actually drives people into the theater, I'm okay with it. And in this case, I'm thrilled to be the guy who wrote a Clint Eastwood film. That's great for me.
Well, yeah, it should be. Yeah, it's. I talked to his editor, Joel Cox, and I said, he's 89. I mean, how many directors have worked like that? And he says, he's determined to keep directing at least until he's 100. And that keeps him going, though. It's his lifeblood and all of that. For you as a director, you became a director to protect your material, or what was your reasoning here?
No, I think writers should become directors to protect their material or doomed to fail. And I think they should, because if you're there just to protect your material, then there's a certain rigidity with which you approach everything. And that rigidity impacts the crew and impacts the cast. No one feels like they can bring anything that's not in the script. The goal of making a movie is to beat the page. You've written the script and everyone thinks it's swell and they're willing to invest money in it, but now it's time to find out what's living between the words and behind the words, and you need that alchemy that comes when a great piece of casting shows up and they have some sort of magical idea about how to interpret a character or how to play a particular scene. You got to be open to that. You got to sort of dispense the movieola that was in your head for 2 years and allow for this new thing to evolve. It should be different than the thing you wrote. It should be better than the thing you wrote. So I didn't become a director to protect my material. I became a director because I was working on a movie called Hearts War, and we were shooting in Prague in January, and it was an exterior, and everybody was freezing their asses off, and I was sitting in a trailer that was heated, and I was completely comfortable, and I thought, something's wrong here. I'm not suffering enough for my art. I'm not having the fun of the movie taking bullets like everybody else. It was time to find out if I was grown up enough to do this job. So the first one that I tried, it had no nudity in it. It had no car chases. It had no gunplay. Nothing blew up.
What's wrong with you?
In other words, it had none of those things that were so craft-driven that I knew I didn't know how to do. It was just, could you get tone and could you get performance? That said, having done both, directing is the best job in the world. There's no question about it. It's the most fun job in the world. It's the only job in the world where you wish the workday would go on longer. There's not a coal miner in the world who says, oh shit, it's 6, can I just do this for another half hour? No one feels that way except directors. At the end of every day, you want another half hour. And if that's true, then there's no reason why any director should ever be in a shitty movie at any time. It's just a great job, and you should be grateful that you get a chance to do it.
I asked John, I saw John Hamm at the premiere, and I asked him, I said, is it true Clint Eastwood sort of like wraps for lunch, finishes, and said, okay, we'll come back tomorrow? I mean, he's just got like these work hours that are incredible, and he does it on every movie. Did you find that is the case? He makes movies, and as a director, can you understand that?
I wasn't on the set. He didn't need me on the set. I'm told they wrapped early all the time and that they finished ahead of schedule. That's just how he works. Yeah. And it has definitely impacted the way that I think about directing. Absolutely. Absolutely. I move faster now as a result of having been some small part of this experience, for sure.
The one thing, Richard Jewell, when you say that name, a lot of people to this day, until this movie, which doesn't open until December 13th, come out, think, oh, who's Richard Jewell? He's the bomber, the Olympics bomber. He was vindicated, everything happened, it took 80, as we saw in the movie and all of that, but it's still stuck, that impression, which shows you the damage that just the media attention and all of that can do to somebody. It doesn't matter what the truth is.
Well, that first impression is a big deal. And, if you take a look at the Mueller report, the Mueller report comes out and it's fairly damning, but the first spin on it by Barr was there's nothing here. And that became the narrative. And anything that flies in the face of that now looks like second guessing. It looks suspicious in some way. Once Richard Jewell was identified as the bomber, that is how people connect him to the story. I hope that will no longer be true after December 13th. By the way, I just want to take a second. Paul Walter Hauser is so mind-blowingly great. I don't know how many writers are left in this room, but I hope you all get the chance to see a performance like that as something that you wrote. it's incredibly gratifying and humbling because he did a lot of stuff that I didn't write. I didn't write those looks. I didn't write crying while eating a donut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way he moves towards his mother and the slump of his shoulders. You know, you can't write that. He just brought it all. And very, very lucky to have that performance.
It's one of those performances, when you see it, you can't imagine anyone else doing it, including his, Jewell's mother, who was sort of blown away by the fact that she said she looked at him and he says, oh my God, he's got this down. But it's not an impression. He just lives that. He lives that role, which is really remarkable. And he was great in I, Tonya, too, by the way. You notice him. Clint said at the Q&A that he did the premiere night, he was saying that he just sort of had a feeling. He had seen him in that I, Tonya, and he said he just had a feeling because I think when you started this, or when it was at Fox, Jonah Hill was attached to it at some point. Is that right? Yeah. He's a great actor, and I could see him doing this role, but I can't see anybody doing it as well as Paul Walter Hauser at this point.
I'm a big fan of Jonah Hill, and it would have been interesting to see his interpretation of that character, but hard to beat what Paul did.
Yeah. The entire cast on down, it's been beautifully cast, and what more can a writer ask for here, really, in terms of seeing this movie come out the way it did? Congratulations, and good luck going forward with all the other stuff you're doing. Thank you, Billy Ray.